Dramatic new video obtained by CBS 4 News screaming at a Miami-Dade police detective during her interrogation.
The three other young men conspired to murder Guardado, who they knew was a student at a school for at-risk youth. The homestead.
This is definitely one of the most unusual cases. This is a case about a girl and a group of boys who hacked an innocent boy to death with a machete. This is not the most surprising thing about the entire case. Later on during investigations, some information was released that showed us just how inhumane Desiray Strickland really was. The twists in this case are just insane. It was on June 2015 when Desiray and three other boys took the life of an unsuspecting Jose Amaya Guardado. Jose and his family originated from El Salvador. However, his parents, Santos and Lucia Amaya, had had enough of living in the fear that their children would be shot anytime they walked around the street. There was a lot of insecurity here because of all the drug gangs and gang wars. And so Jose's parents decided to take Jose and his 5 siblings to Florida to start a new life there. However, Florida was not as safe as the parents thought it would be. As soon as they got to Florida, it wasn't long before they fully settled in. Jose was the shyest in the family, so he didn't do that much exploring around. Jose would mostly keep to himself while sticking close to his family. One thing that Jose dreamt of was becoming an excellent mechanic, and he was very lucky to have supportive parents. Santos enrolled his son at the Homestead Job Corps Center, which was mostly a live-in program for at-risk youth. At this center, Jose would go on to learn many skills besides the mechanical ones. His parents were even hopeful that Jose would have a bright future. And that would have happened, but there was a group of people, among them Desiray Strickland, who had other plans for Jose. Jose would spend his weekdays on campus, but on the weekends, he would go to the market to sell ice cream. Given that he came from a large family, they would have to do whatever it took to make ends meet. Since he would spend most of his time on campus, he had to make friends at some point. However, his so-called friends were the ones who were bullying him. These were Jonathan Lucas, 18 years old, Christian Collin, 19, Desiray Strickland, 18, and Kahim Arbello, 20. However, everyone on campus would always avoid them because of their criminal backgrounds. Kahim, suspected of being a drug dealer, happened to be Jose's roommate on campus. It wasn't long until Kahim started taking Jose's money. Times were tough for Jose because there were moments where he had to face 4 to 5 bullies at once. Even worse was the fact that the campus was surrounded by wooded areas. On June 28, 2015, Jose asked the institution for permission to go outside and get some snacks. And given that the staff trusted him, they knew he would return in 30 minutes. However, by 6 p.m., he was not yet back. The institution called Jose's parents to ask if he had visited, but they said they hadn't seen him. This was quite unusual for Jose, raising his parents' alarm. On the same evening, Jose's parents went to report him missing, but they were told that since he was 17 years old, he had to be missing for 72 hours before they could start investigating. Santos, Lucia, and Jose's older brother, Fredis, couldn't wait any longer, and they decided to start the search without the police. When they spoke to the staff, they were told that Jose had gone out to get some snacks. Jose was also nowhere to be seen around the town center. 2 days later, the family decided to search the wooded areas around the school. As they were looking through, Fredis noticed a large burnt patch of grass. He started digging, and that's when he noticed Jose's feet buried underneath. But upon revealing the entire body, they saw something you only see in horror movies. This time, when Jose's family went to the police had no choice but to listen. They were rushed to the crime scene, and the forensic team got to work. Jose's body was very decomposed, so it was quite hard for them to work with it. However, there was some interesting evidence around the area, such as tree branch that had been cut and pieces of clothes that were burnt. By the end of the day, the police had already declared that Jose's murder was a homicide. When this murder reached the media was in an uproar. But whatever happened to Jose was the most unusual thing. All the family wanted to know was who killed Jose, why they did it, and when they would get arrested. It wouldn't take long to find answers, and each answer brought closure to the family. 24 hours into the investigation, and the police had already arrested Kahim Arbello. The school knew he was a criminal, so they never hesitated to guide the police to his location. Shortly after, the rest of the crew was arrested: Desiray, Christian, and Jonathan. But after further investigations, it was discovered that there was a fifth member. It was Joseph Michael Cabrera, but upon their arrest, they all claimed to be innocent. When Kahim and Jonathan were arrested, the police photographed their hands, trying to find some machete or burned wood signs. The 5 people in custody for the murder of Jose were still reluctant to admit that they were guilty. However, as investigations would later reveal, they were not really innocent either. It appears as though they had planned Jose's murder 2 weeks prior. They had even buried their weapons in the woods and dug a shallow grave where they would bury the body. But why would you take 2 weeks to plan for such a murder? What was the motive here? Well, it so happened that Jose owed Kahim money for narcotics. And yes, the same money he was stealing from Jose was the same he was expecting to be paid. So on June 28th, the group managed to lure Jose to a spot they had chosen in the woods. And when Jose got there, Kahim dug out his machete and hacked at Jose for minutes. Everyone watched Kahim as he did this, and they did nothing to stop him. After that, he was violated, beaten, and buried in a shallow grave. And when he was being buried, he was still breathing. However, it doesn't end there. After everyone left, Kahim and Desiray stayed behind, and since they were a couple, they decided to make love right next to Jose's body. Kahim was charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and 4 counts of tampering with a witness or victim. As he was awaiting his trial, everyone else was being thoroughly investigated. She even took it to the next level, insulting the officer. Desiray had pushed the officer when they were going into the interrogation room, but she claimed that he was the one who had pushed her. When she started to realize that her cries and yelling wouldn't get her anywhere, she started claiming that she would have an asthma attack. The officer then employed an interrogation technique, where he left her alone in the room just to see how she would react when she thought she was alone. Desiray made it worse for herself when she tried to bang the cuffs on the table to break free. When that wasn't working, she took out the screws from an electrical outlet to try and pick open her cuffs. And besides, why was she trying to break free if she was innocent as she claimed she was? When the detective returned, she found some words scratched on the table which read, "MPD, go to hell." Given all that she had done and her actions after being interrogated, it seemed that she had no remorse whatsoever. When she appeared in court, her actions were quite interesting and disrespectful. She seemed as though she was bored and cared less about what was going on in the courtroom. But maybe it was all an act to tell the police department to go to hell. Eventually, she was charged with first-degree murder and tampering with a body. In addition, she was fined $2,100 for pushing the police officer, trashing the interrogation room, and removing the screws from the electrical outlet. In May 2022, Desiray was offered a plea deal. She would only serve 15 years in prison if she pleaded guilty to conspiracy to murder. However, she still refused this offer. Fast forward to September 2022 when Desiray accepted the plea deal. She received a sentence for 15 years, with the 7 years she had already served being counted. This means she might be out by around 2030. Jose's family may have found some closure, but the dark reality remains that his killer could be free in just a decade. The unanswered questions and haunting implications of this case will continue to linger. What are your thoughts on this case? Share in the comments below. Thanks for joining us on this chilling journey into the world of true crime. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more bone-chilling tales. Until next time, stay vigilant.